This lesson is on defining a PHP function that receives data input and then does something with it. First, before we go look at the code, let's look at the web page here. It's just got 4 cities listed: Chicago, Detroit, Toronto, Los Angeles. That's nice, but not a very exciting page. How did we get here? Look at the top here that I've called a PHP program to get started. I didn't start with a web form in this case. So let's look at the code. Here we are. Now, we're getting the document root, as you've seen we've done before when we want to read a file. We're going to read cities text file. Remember, we put that in a level below our root directory, and we put it in a folder called data. So we have the 2 setup statements at the top, getting the root and defining the file name. But now I have a new function that I defined called display file. Here's the function definition. Now, the function definition has something between the parentheses. It says $a_file_name. And up here, I call that function with the display file, and I have $filename. So one of the questions people often have when they first start doing functions in PHP is, why doesn't this have to be the same as that? The key thing to remember is when I call a function with a statement like this, I'm not passing the variable name to the function. I'm passing the data value that is stored in the variable name, not really the variable name itself. So when we get here, when we get to this function definition, I've called it, is almost like I said $a_filename equals $filename. And so it'll transfer the value from here to here. So now once I'm here, this variable is local to the function. You're going to learn a little bit more about that later. But essentially what that means is only the code inside the function can see that name and use the value contained within. And that's okay. This is what we want right now. So I've passed the file name to the function. Let's look at the code. You've seen code like this before. We count the lines that are in the file name. This essentially opens up the file name, counts the lines in it, and brings back the number of lines in the file. We're going to use that for the for loop below. Now we open the file name to read, get the file pointer. Here's where we use the lines in file counter to know how many times to do the for loop, just as we've done before. In here, we get 1 line from the file, put it in here. I trim it just to make sure there aren't any stray characters there, into the city, and I print city. This is what you saw on the web page. City, whatever the city was named when it was read from a line in the file, and then I have a break. So we had 1 city per line. So we got the cities from the cities text file that we opened. Let's take a quick look at that file. There it is, Chicago, Detroit, Toronto, Los Angeles. And those were the cities we saw on the web page at the beginning of this presentation. This ends our lesson on using a custom function in PHP that receives some data.